But good. So now we can start, and I thank you for coming here, and I'm here to give you what I strongly believe is evidence pointing to the fact that Mr. Hakainde Hichilema should actually not be in politics. He should not be aspiring for presidency. Rather, he should be in jail. This is the evidence that I have is pointing in that direction. Now, I know that, a number of you have got mixed feelings over this. I'm aware of that. But I want to tell you that some of you who have followed me, from the word go in this office, I have been a man that has been fighting corruption. When I was in Zambian Voice, I have been fighting corruption. So this is not about one particular individual. I've got a number of people that I have spoken about. Some of them have even taken me to court. And these people are not just in the opposition. If anything, more are in the ruling party. My object as a politician, a new kid on the block, a guy that has come to change the way politics is done, my issue is that people who have got questionable characters with backgrounds which is dented should not be in politics. I am going to contest in 2021 next year. I'm going to contest. And I want to make sure that those who will be competing, those who will be contesting, are not criminals. I don't want to contest with criminals. I don't want to contest with corrupt people. I don't want people who are compromised to be on the ballot next year. So this is my agenda. So don't be mistaken. I really want to make sure that we remove those bad guys and they don't contest elections next year. This is my object. And this doesn't mean only those in opposition. Even Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, if there is the evidence that he too is dented, I don't want him on the ballot. It will even be nicer not to have him. So this is the object. This is the object, and this is where I stand, even as a party. Our party, we want to make sure that we fight corruption. Look, Zambians, there is no way we are going to have progressive and meaningful change if we will keep on having bad leadership, if we keep on having people who are corrupt. I know a lot of you are frustrated with the President Edgar Lungu and his government, and you want change. But that change shouldn't be to bring in wrong people again. How are we going to have change? We keep on repeating the same people. Today he's in the ruling party, you are saying he's corrupt, and so on and so forth. The following day, he jumps out of the ruling party, he's attacking the ruling party, you say he's a good leader. How? How? These are the same people. Some of you in here, when I started the issue of Vakambwili, right in this boardroom, some of you were saying, no, what, Kambwili, what? But you are forgetting that Vakambwili was in the ruling party. And the cases that I brought, that I took to court, were not when Vakambwili was in opposition. It was when Vakambwili was in the ruling party. And today Vakambwili is a convict. And yet you are saying, no, this is the Messiah. How? How, Mwiwantu? How are we going to change this country if we are going to have this mentality? Some of you say, no, you favor Edgar Lungu. Believe you me, I am telling you, I swear upon my living God, If Edgar Lungu, if you have evidence against Edgar Lungu, I will come and sit on this chair in this office and say it as it is. I will not spare him. I will not let my conscience be betrayed just because he's in office, if indeed there is corruption. The problem that we have is that we usually run with, innuendos, speculations. That's what we run with. If there is evidence of President Edgar Lungu being involved in wrong things, for me, I would definitely go for him. At the moment, I don't have tangible evidence to say President Edgar Lungu is corrupt. I don't have it. And I'm saying, if you have something, please bring it. But it has to be good evidence, like the evidence I have here. It has to be good evidence. Because at the end of the day, like HH was saying, I mean, if you say something that you cannot substantiate, you are in trouble. I don't want to be in trouble. I don't want to be in trouble. Yes, I have issues with President Edgar Lungu in terms of fighting corruption. He approaches corruption with kid gloves. And I have a problem there. I have a problem there. There are a number of ministers that I'll tell you, and these are in PF ministers today. Because you like to say, no, you only attack the opposition. But some of the names I've mentioned before, they are in government. They are ministers. And I've had issues with them. And my writing is on social media. That's why I write on social media, because I want, even when I'm long gone, people will be able to go to my page and say, this is what he said. So for me, I am very balanced in approaching corruption issues. When I'm talking about Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, it is out of the evidence that I have. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema should not, and I repeat, should not be aspiring for presidency. I think he should be in jail. And why do I say that? I say this out of the evidence that I have. Because I've met people, I've spoken to people, alive, flesh and blood people, not at ghosts. They have come to complain how Mr. Hakainde Hichilema got them out of their houses, how Mr. Hakainde Hichilema kicked them out of their employments, how Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has not paid them as people who used to work for some of the companies that were privatized. At the moment, I can give you one example, because I'm saying I want to talk with evidence. I'll give you one example. I've got a number of cases that I've been looking at, but today I'm just going to give you some of the issues that I'm going to the Anti-Corruption Commission, to the police, and make sure that Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is prosecuted. In my course of going around checking for this evidence, it has come to my attention that Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has 2 NRCs. This is what I've obtained, and I'm giving it to the police to investigate. There is an NRC, and take note of the NRC. I want to mention these NRCs. The NRC, there is one which is 26 17 86 /72 1. And another one, 12 88 73 /72 1. These NRCs are all pointing to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. I am a whistleblower in this instance, and I want the police to investigate. I want the police to investigate. Me, in my investigations, as I was going around looking for this, looking for that, going to the Ministry of Lands, going to Zambia Development Agency and other, I've come out that there are these 2 institutions, and I'm confused. I'm confused. Go to UNZA, the names are also not appearing. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm wondering, who is Mr. Hakainde Hichilema? I am lost on his identity. UNZA, if you go there, you will see different names from the names that we know him in the political circles. NRCs, I'm seeing 2 NRCs. 2 NRCs, and some of these both NRCs are attached to some properties. This is how I came to find out. Because you do a search, Hakainde Hichilema, I had so many names attached to certain properties, but the NRCs are differing. So I'm confused. What's going on? Who is who here? Who is Mr. Hakainde Hichilema? And for me, this is a point of investigation. I want the police to investigate on the identity of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. To my fellow Zambians, just on that issue of identity, I don't know what you think, but if you have a person that cannot clearly identify himself, how can you trust such a person? Just there, if you have a person that cannot clearly identify himself, what are we talking about? He was Hakainde Sami Hichilema at Unza. When did he drop the Sami name? What is going on? What about these two NRCs I'm finding out? What's going on? I am taking this to the police, and I believe I am not mad. I am not foolish. This is a very genuine case. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema wants to occupy that big position to be citizen number one. Now, if you want to be citizen number one and we cannot identify you, how can that be? I don't hate Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. These are facts. These are facts. I've given you the NRC numbers. Go and check them. You will find that they are got the same name. Same, I mean, everything. It's pointing to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. What's going on? I want to know. Go to Unza. You'll find that, I mean, if you check his computer number, the names are different. Anyway, moving on. Let me come to privatization. I have said that there are people who were deprived of their properties, who have not been paid, who were kicked out of employment in the name of privatization. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not joking. I am not being malicious. I have spoken to these people. I have seen how they are suffering. Some of them, if you see them, you would actually feel pity. There is one house. There is one house. There is one house, plot number. You take note of this. There is one house, plot number 77/A/609 on Polar Avenue in Cheston, Lusaka. This house used to belong to Zimco. It used to belong to Zimco, and the occupant of that house, the tenant, the sitting tenant, at the time they were privatizing Zimco, was Mr. S. Jerry. This Mr. S. Jerry, and just before I go on, I want to show you, I've got a list. This is a list of houses which were sold by Zimco. I'll distribute this this document. I'll distribute this document. Here there are names, not just the person that I'm talking about, but all the names, all the houses which were sold. Okay, and this particular person I'm talking about is actually on page 2, number 58. Number 58. You will see the house number that I've mentioned here, 77/A/609, Polar Avenue, Cheston, and it was offered to Mr. S. Jerry as a sitting tenant, as a former worker of Zimco. At so this, I'll put it there. This is out. You will look through it. It's real. And for those people, I want also to make an appeal that for those who are on this list, this list I will post it even on my page. I know there are some people who were treated in the same way like Mr. S. Jerry. I want them to come forward because they are my witnesses. They are my witnesses. So all those who are on this list, if you were deprived, in the same way that Mr. S. Jerry was deprived his house, I want you to come forward. And accompanied, because I'm saying it was offered to Mr. S. Jerry. You might think that I'm joking. Here is an offer letter. This is an offer letter to Mr. S. Jerry. This one. It's an offer letter, and the name is there on the list, together with others. You know. Yeah, it's actually M. Jerry. Plot number, whatever, Paul Avenue, whatever, dear, whatever, and you see it. And it was offered to this man to be bought at 19.8 million. 19.8 million. That is what was offered to him. By that time, it was non-based. Okay, so 9.8 million. Mr. M. Jerry was given that offer and that later. And he actually paid for it. And I have a receipt. He actually paid for it. He actually paid for it. He paid it through SP Mulenga. SP Mulenga were the lawyers who were appointed by, to be receiving money and so on and so forth. So he paid through SP Mulenga. Now, what happened thereafter? Mysteriously, that house was bought by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema at 31,000. Now, how did it happen? Here is a printout from the Ministry of Lands. Here is a printout. On page 2 of this, on the second page, you will see Mr. Hakainde Hichilema there, and the change of title, certificate being offered, and at 31,000. How did Mr. Hichilema buy this house? How? Mr. Hichilema never worked for Zimco. He never worked for Zimco. And we have an offer letter to the sitting tenant. And we have a receipt of this sitting tenant buying the house, paying for the house. Later on, we have a house in the name of Mr. Hichilema, buying it at 31,000. I have checked and I have been told, I found out that Mr. Norman Mbazima, who was the co-liquidator, offered the house to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Offered the house to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and he bought it at 31,000. Depriving the sitting tenant, the former worker of Zimco. How did Mr. Norman Mbazima offer the house to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema? If you check around, you find that Norman Mbazima and HH, they are very close people. They are very close people. Mr. Norman Mbazima, from there, he even ended up being the deputy chairman of Anglo-American. And Anglo-American is believed to be one of the strongest sponsors of Mr. Hichilema and the UPND. So you see the connection. You see the connection. These are not fiction. These are real things. Here are the facts. Here is a printout. Mr. Hichilema is there, having had bought this house at 31,000. This is what is showing. And I'm wondering, how come? How come? And these people who are being deprived is not the only one. I know there are other people. There is one person, Mr. Norman Mbazima, who I'm sure, wherever he is, he will remember that there is one person in Kwacha Road who also wanted to be treated the same way. He had to go to Ronald Penza by then, because he was lucky he was connected to Ronald Penza. So he went to Ronald Penza, and Ronald Penza wrote a letter which I have, telling Norman Mbazima to say, no, don't do that. He's the owner of the house. Give him the house. And that's how he was saved. Otherwise, his house would have also been gone. Now, Zambians, honestly, Is this kind of things that we are going to allow? Just because we are frustrated, we say, no, this is our Messiah. With this kind of background, I am bringing out this, and I'm taking it to Anti-Corruption Commission. I want the Anti-Corruption Commission to look into this, because how did it happen that Mr. Hichilema, who was never a worker for Zimco, who was not a sitting tenant in that house, ended up buying a house, depriving this man? I want the Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate this. This is one of the cases that I'm taking to the Anti-Corruption Commission. These printouts were taken some time back. But just the other day when I went to the Ministry of Land to check on this house to get a printout, there are dubious entries. There are dubious entries on that. If you go and get a printout today, what you see, it's not making sense. So, I am issuing a serious warning to those people who work at the Ministry of Lands, because there is also too much corruption there. There is too much corruption at the Ministry of Lands. A lot of people are mysteriously losing properties from nowhere. Walikala with your title, all of a sudden there is another person with another title on your property. How is this happening? And this is a clear example that I have, because a printout, that is a printout from the Ministry of Lands. That's a printout which was done some time back. I go there just the other day, the printout is showing something else. How? This is the same ministry, and some details are just, I mean, you would think that it's a different house. You know, when I went there, I'm like, is this the same house? I went to my source. I said, no, I think you gave me a wrong whatever. And he said, no, it's a real one. It's the same. Same property. There is a lot of corruption going on at the Ministry of Land, and myself, we want to make sure that such corruption is gotten rid of. When you have a title, you're supposed to feel secure. You're supposed to be okay to say, I have a property. We shouldn't have a situation where people with the influence, people with money, taking advantage and just grabbing properties from citizens. I can't allow that. That's not why I'm in politics. I'm here in politics to finish this kind of nonsense. Anyway, that is one house. Nafumako, I'm moving. By the way, file mfuika, file panga sensi. Muna kuti wanjimi nikadzexi, ngatapali fumwe mwamona tapangire sensi. Atapo wavepa. I am a document. So poya mwala pita mweka. I will even post them on social media. I will even post them on social media. Let me move to another property. There is another property. Farm number 1924. Farm number 1924, which is in Kalomo, Southern Province. This property belongs to the late Samson Siatembo. This property, farm number 1924, belongs to the late Samson Siatembo, and it is in Kalomo. What is the issue on this property? This property was mortgaged to Lima Bank. It was mortgaged to Lima Bank around the 1989. It was on mortgage to Lima Bank. When Lima Bank was being liquidated, and you remember who were the liquidators, it was Grant Thornton. So when Lima Bank was being privatized, this property was still under mortgage under Lima Bank. Today, as we speak, this property is owned by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. I want to show you, this is the mortgage, because in Sri Lanka, tema evidence on the corridors of the court. If we to evidence, mortgage. This is the mortgage. It was under Lima Bank. Samson Tembo and Lima Bank Limited. 1989. Lima Bank goes into privatization. Afterwards, so there we have, the evidence is there. Afterwards, in 2004, this property changed into Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. And even today as I speak, it is still in Mr. Hakainde Hichilema's name. If you check, I checked on some of the documents as far as I could go to check if Mr. Hakainde Hichilema declared interest. There is nothing. There is nothing. And this time around, when Mr. Hakainde Hichilema was changing the property, conveying this property into his name, he was actually the managing partner of Grant Thornton. How did Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, how did he acquire this property when he was a liquidator? I'm not giving the details, I have all the details. But I want him to respond. Because he's saying, no, I never took advantage. I want him to respond. You are right. I am asking, IFAM number 1924 in Kalomo, how did you acquire it when it was mortgaged to Lima Bank, which you were privatizing, which you were liquidating? How? These are clear facts. I don't hate Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. It's not personal. It's not personal. I don't know. So there is nothing like hatred here. It's facts speaking for themselves.
Pause here for a little bit here. I know you've been watching this. I didn't introduce the discourse. We are to NSI. The progress is in the hands of the people. Now, I do acknowledge that there is a lot of people with a lot of issues with Chilufete Tayali here. And what I want to say to my fellow Zambians and everybody that's listening is that so far, Mr. Tayali, what he is saying, and I need you to look at or listen to what he is saying, because that is the essence of objectivity. What he is saying is sound. A lot of people question as to his motives. He's being selective, he's being malicious, he's being what and what. There is no evidence of any of that. There's no empirical. That is speculation. It is speculation, and it's emotionally driven. So based on what he's saying, it is sound. If we are ever going to change government for the better in Zambia, we have to do exactly what this guy is saying. Otherwise, there will never be a better Zambia. That is a fact. It is a fact. So we can't have politics in Zambia which are emotionally driven. I know a lot of passions here. I know what he's saying here, arouses a lot of factional passions in Zambia, in people, in different tribes, in the opposition and all that stuff. Sure, serious passions and animosities, but the truth, this guy is right on point. This guy is almost like reading my mind, the way I think about it. If you want the country to develop, you have to watch out for who is who. Why is this called name calling or selective pursuits or anything like that? I'll give you an example. In the United States, in the United States, this is not uncommon. In the United States, watch the primary, right? Watch the primaries. Some of you watched the primaries of the Trump campaign. There were maybe 9 or 12 candidates, Democrats, standing on podiums. What did they do to each other? They all were attacking, bringing out the backgrounds of each other to be examined fully. You did this and this and this. Explain. All those things are brought up in order for the court of public opinion, and also if there's a crime, for an investigation to occur. That's what they do. Because each one of those people does not want to say, obviously he wants to end up being the best candidate. And the way you do that is by making sure that everybody who's competing with you is legit. He is qualified to be president. He is worthy of the highest office. It happens all the time in the United States. It was happening recently with Joe Biden. Joe Biden and all the other candidates. Kamala Harris was one of them. Bernie Sanders was one of them. It was heated. It was like Joe Biden did this and 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 this. No, this one did this and this and this. They were out in the open, checking each other on what their backgrounds are in order to eliminate them. I'm serious. That's the object. In order to eliminate your fellow opposition opponent from the rest. Because if there's something serious about any one of them, they should not be standing there. It's the truth. We see it in the United States all the time. This is exactly the same thing. This guy, what he's doing, I find absolutely nothing wrong with what he's doing. US politicians in the opposition, they are all over the people in the government. They're all over the people in the government, criticizing them. Sometimes they succeed in bringing them down. Sometimes an impeachment occurs on a judge or on anybody. But the people in the government, the cabinet ministers, they cannot be touched by just talking unless they commit a crime. Unless there's evidence that they have committed a crime. Then the FBI will investigate. That is no different from what this guy is saying. He is saying, if my opponents are shady, I am going to make sure that they don't stand. Is that wrong? No, it is not wrong. It is not wrong. In fact, it is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. Guys, I'm sorry. It is the right thing to do. If what is producing here as evidence, it's very bad. With what is producing here as evidence, and it seems like what confident he has the evidence, it's really bad, because it would mean that Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, elevated himself on the backs of fellow Zambians in a huge way, in a significant way. I don't know what his defense is to all these allegations, but if he did that, the most important evidence evinced in this briefing is, why would Mr. Hakainde Hichilema have two NRCs? And I would want to give him the benefit of the doubt that he can explain. No citizen can ever have two NRCs and they are both attached to some businesses. That's a serious crime. That is a serious crime. But some of these guys, we need to tamper down our emotional attachments to people. We need to tamper down our emotional attachments to people. No, let me get my shit right here a little bit. We need to tamper down. We are not going to run the politics of Zambia by emotions, we will never go anywhere. I'm telling you, we will never go anywhere. Sure, because the passions right now are high because everyone wants to remove the PF from power. You have, how many candidates we have in Zambia? How many candidates are we going to have in Zambia? Is Hakainde Hichilema the only candidate we have in Zambia? Is him and him the only candidates we have in Zambia? We have up to like 7 people, 7 parties. But Zambians choose to ignore all those. If you look at countries like the United States, if there are 12 candidates, they will be completely visible in the public eye. They are brought before a national debates, and they all have to be there at the national debates. So people, the country can see who is best for them. In Zambia, we only come down, we focus on 2 people. You leave all these outstanding candidates. And when somebody takes, I'm looking at this guy, I'm sorry guys, I'm looking at this as a very patriotic thing to do for this guy. And for those, if you say, well, why isn't he going after the big fish, the people in the government themselves that were there, that are there right now doing bad things? Where is the 42 million and all that stuff? It all comes down to evidence. If you do not have evidence on anyone, don't run your mouth. You could be sued and then you produce no evidence. Even if it may be apparent that there's corruption going on, you simply do not start to run your mouth. This is a realm of legalities. You don't start to run your mouth until you have something in your hands to show. And I believe this is what this guy is trying to tell you. He's trying to tell everybody, every Zambian. You know, the pillar of development depends on the actions of every citizen. And we can complain a lot about what is bringing up against me that Hakainde Hichilema, because we have developed such an emotional attachment as Bali, fondly calling him Bali. You forget to look at anything else. This guy does, and you start condemning him. Why? He's trying to protect the system. He's trying to save you from another 10 years of misery, of melancholy. That's what he's trying to do. That's how I see it. I don't know what else you have to say about this guy, but what he's saying right now to me is extremely sound. His sound, he stands on firm ground. He stands on terra firma. And I agree with everything he's saying 100%. 100%. Because absent what he's doing, absent what he's saying, and absent a whole lot of other Zambians joining in this cause, exactly what he's doing, eliminating other opposition leaders is just fine. It happens in the most developed of countries. You have to eliminate those that are not qualified. You have to prove yourself that you are the most qualified by eliminating those that are not qualified. Those that have shady backgrounds, they did this and this and this. You attack them, they'll drop off. They'll drop off the contest. Then the number reduces. Then you have to go about against these other ones. What have you done? What did you do here? What did you do here? What did you do here? Are you a person of integrity? You have to assert yourself as the person of integrity. And you get eliminated, you get eliminated, you get eliminated. And that's how it works. It works in the United States. Why is it a problem when it works in Zambia? This is what this guy is doing. He's on a panel of all these contestants, potential contestants next year. He's on a panel with them. And sure, why would he stand to run against somebody he knows this person is not good for the presidency? Why would he stand for that? Why wouldn't he come out as a citizen and say it? I believe he's right on every count. The guy is right. I believe everything. I support everything that he's saying. You know, the speculation that he's only selectively going after people and things like that, I don't buy it. I don't see any evidence of that. Again, it comes down to the evidence. I don't see any evidence. We can believe that he's going after people selectively. I don't believe it because I don't see any evidence of that. And that's what he keeps saying. If I don't have evidence to speak about, to speak against anybody, I'm not going to do it because it's Boko trouble. You have to have something in your hands before you open your mouth. If you don't, you end up in trouble yourself. And you lose credibility. And you lose traction in your political career. So, the good thing about him is vocal because he's coming out with these things in public so that the people of Zambia can see what they're dealing with. I give him kudos for that. I say thank you for bringing out these things in public so the Zambian people can make their own judgments. You make your own judgments. If you make a bad one, it's your future. If you choose to look at other candidates, and there are quite a number of them, sure. If you vote for Mr. Hakainde Hichilema and he gets in power and you find misery, you can have a better life. Perhaps. But these things that are coming out here do not speak well. It also goes to the fact that William Banda, a bloodthirsty criminal in the MMD, is an advisor to HH. We have to run those two. We have to correlate these things. And it gives you pause to think about, a few things. We are all citizens, we are all individuals, and we have a responsibility to do whatever it takes to change Zambia. To run our country based on emotional politics will never change Zambia. Period. End of story. It is what it is. It will never happen. Zambia will not develop, will not advance based on emotional politics. It will never happen. The only thing that will change Zambia is if you have a lot of Zambians just like this guy's doing. Because this guy is doing exactly what should be happening. And even more, those people standing around him are journalists. Is there any investigative journalism in Zambia? Because those people are supposed to be the people that have all this evidence. They're supposed to go on assignments and investigate who's this person, so they can make breaking news. That's what breaking news is. This guy, Gilbert Ali, is the guy coming up with the breaking news. He's breaking the news to the media. He's breaking the news to the media. And the truth is, any of those, do they seem to have the enthusiasm to be able to follow up on what he's saying? Some of them will not. They'll be waiting for more from him so they can publish it. So, anyway, that was my comment. I think the broadcast got interrupted here. I mean the video. But I think you saw enough. If you want to see more of that, you can go to Chilufeta Ali's website and you can see the rest of his briefing. So, but I just wanted to make that comment that regardless of what you think of this guy, what he's saying is what Zambia needs, is what needs to be happening in Zambia. The politics of Zambia must change. I've said this before. The politics have to change. You have to remove emotions out of politics. The politics of Zambia must change. He said it himself. He says, I am the guy on the scene now who wants to change how we do politics. How we do politics in Zambia 100% has to change, or the country is not going nowhere. If we love Zambia, that is exactly what has to happen. change the way we do politics. We don't have solidarity among opposition political leaders just because they are all in oppositions. These people are not related to each other. They are not relatives. Many of them are not friends. There's nothing about these people that should, bring solidarity among them. Maybe say for the fact that they are only, they are all in opposition. And just because they are in opposition we cannot allow that to be the shield for any wrongdoing in the past. It cannot shield them from any wrongdoing in the past. Just like Mbwili did all sorts of wrong things and all sorts of, crimes against society while he's in government. Once he comes out, you want to shield him around the politics. Because he's now in opposition, he's a victim, and he cannot be touched. This is detrimental to the future of our country. The very life's blood of Zambia depends on this, changing this. We have to grow a new mentality, and we have to develop a new national attitude against bad actors. We have to say there's zero tolerance for this. If Mr. Hakainde Hichilema says, I'll have zero tolerance to corruption, why would we have two NRCs and they are both attached to businesses? That's a crime already. And you are aspiring to be the president. This issue of buying houses and depriving citizens of houses, those citizens are in bad shape right now because of that. You can't do that. Anyway, that was my comment, short comment. We are in Tanshibandu. Subscribe to this channel, please, and we'll talk later.